Hello and welcome to Module 1, Lesson 1. So this first session is going to be a brain dump exercise. So what we're going to do here is we are going to do a bit of a worksheet together, or we can use a big piece of paper, and we're going to get a whole heap of your ideas out of your head and onto paper about what your freelance business is going to look like. So what we're going to cover in this session, we're going to cover why we do a brain dump. We're going to work through an example. I'm going to get my whiteboard out and we're going to work on an example together based around what I do. And I'll give you a bit of a background to the freelance work that I've been doing. And then we're going to have a bit of a think about the kind of freelance business that you're going to have and how you're going to draw upon all of the amazing skills that you have. And then I'd like you to do a brain dump exercise yourself. So take everything that you've learned in this module, spend some time, sit down and do the work to get all of your ideas, all of your knowledge and skills and all of the great stuff you've learned over the course of your life out onto a piece of paper and figure out how we're going to be able to use those things to create a freelance business that you can do from home. So, why do we do a brain dump? What we want to do is we want to capture everything that you might possibly want to use to come up with your freelance business idea. Because often I find that what we do is we think about the obvious things. Maybe we focus on the things that we've been doing in our job or the things that we learned at uni or things like that, university. But often we have a lot of skills that are more broad than that. So we have experiences from our life. We have experiences, perhaps you've had another business and you might have experience from that. You might have done volunteer work. You might have experience from that. So we want to get everything out of your head and down onto a piece of paper. You can spend as little amount of time as you like or as long as you like. Some of you might have some ideas about what your freelance business is going to be already, but I still think it's a great idea just to take some time to get a big sheet of paper out. Maybe you can do like what they've got on the picture there and get some post-its out and write all your ideas on different post-its and put them down, because I think what you'll find is that once you do that, you'll realize that you're so much more than what you have on your CV. A lot of the time we look at what we've done in the past, we look at the jobs that we've had and we focus on the things that we've done in those jobs, but you're so much more than that. And I want you to be able to think of all of your knowledge and all of your skills, and we can work together to figure out a way to package those up to make a really great freelance business. And I find it's really great just to do this on a big blank piece of paper with lots of colored pens. And I'll show you how I do it shortly when I get onto my whiteboard. But I feel like that can be a really good way to get your creative juices flowing. So get out your nice colored pens, get out your big sheet of paper or your whiteboard, and start to get all of your ideas out onto paper. Okay, so to give you a bit of an idea of how to do this exercise well, I want to give you some background into the freelance work that I've done and how that came about for me and how I've made the most of the skills that I already had to be able to do freelance work. What I did for several years was to work as a legal support person. And how that came about was that I had been working as a lawyer. I found that the job that I had was just your traditional sort of office job where you're working, 5 days a week, usually at least 5 days a week, often in the weekends as well, doing some quite long hours. My children at that stage were quite small. So I had my youngest when I started that job was almost 2, I think. And there's about 20 months between my kids. So my kids were quite small at that time. And I just found it really, really hard. I'm sure many of you will relate to this, trying to do a full-time job and then also run a business on the side, and then, still to have the time to do all of those life admin things that you need to do, the housework, the washing, the grocery shopping, all the things that we're having to try and fit into our days. And I got to the point where I felt like I couldn't do that anymore or something was going to give. It was just too hard on our family to try and have 2 full-time working parents and juggling all of those other things as well. So I left my full-time job and I tried a number of different ways to try and earn income from home, and I found that quite hard. It seems you hear all the gurus online talking about all the different ways, how easy it is to make money online. You've got, like people making money through YouTube, people selling courses, people doing selling products, all sorts of things. And so I started trying some of those things, and I found it quite hard to get established earning a income that was sufficient to meet the needs of our family. So a lot of those different business models are great, but they take time. And I didn't have time. I needed to be earning money quite quickly. So an opportunity came up where I was able to do some legal support work. So working for another lawyer, working from home, it came through a friend of mine. And what that meant was that I was able to do work on a casual basis, working from home, selling my time, hours for dollars, and doing legal support. So I was able to draw upon the skills that I had learned and the things that I knew about working as a lawyer to be able to support another lawyer. And the kinds of things that I could focus on was things like my research and writing skills, document preparation. I'd done on quite a bit of court work, so I knew how to support somebody who was doing court work. And because of the work that I had done through my own businesses, I also had a pretty good idea about how to do things like creating invoices and managing accounts and that kind of thing. And so I was able to help this person with a lot of different tasks in their business because I had this knowledge, having been both a lawyer myself and having had business experience. So that meant that it was kind of like a perfect situation because I could work from home, and it was a perfect situation for the person I was working for because I had all these skills and all this knowledge. That meant that they didn't have to start from scratch and tell me everything from the beginning because I was already well versed in the kind of business that that person was running. And so I think what you'll find is that when you look at your own skills and the things that you've done and the jobs that you've had, that you'll be able to figure out a way to create a work from home freelance business using all the skills you have. And there'll be a client out there who has the need for exactly the set of skills that you have. It might not be doing exactly the same job as you do now, but there will be people who need your skills. So coming back to my example again, I worked as a lawyer. There was a long period of time there where I actually didn't want to work as a lawyer anymore. I had felt burnt out and it was just not where I wanted to be at that point in time. So being able to do a job sort of in the same industry, but not as a lawyer was really, really great for me in a number of ways, I guess, in that it gave me all of this flexibility, but I could draw upon those skills and I was still in my industry. So still getting to stay in touch with the stuff that was going on in my industry and to keep my experience up so that if I did want to go back into that career in the future, then I was still in touch with that sector. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flick over to my whiteboard and I'm going to do a bit of a brainstorming exercise to show you how this might look, taking the skills that I had and putting them all out onto the paper or onto the whiteboard so that I can give you an example of what you might do when you run through this exercise shortly yourself. So let's head over to the whiteboard now. Okay, so I've got a virtual whiteboard here, so you might want to do it on something like this, or you might want to do it on a big piece of paper, entirely up to you how you want to do your big brainstorm. But I'm going to show you this on this virtual whiteboard here. You can access this. This is free online if you wanted to use something like this. So I'm just going to grab a text box and I'm going to put in Kelly's, whoops, I can't spell, freelance business. Okay, so I've got that there, that in the middle, and then I'm going to grab another box. And so I want to start putting in things like we've been talking about. So I'm going to put over here. So I'm going to put over here, I'm going to put lawyer because that's a job that I had. But from there, and if I want to, I can just sort of take something and I can draw a little circle around that. Kind of make it, I mean, you might do this much prettier than I have with a piece of paper and some nice colored pens. But, you know, like a nice mind map, you've probably done one in school. I might put another box in over here. I'm going to put investor. So one of the things I had up my sleeve with my property investment business, learned a lot doing that. So again, I might put a little box around this one over here. and put that here. And then, I mean, what else could we put in there? I'll start with those ones to start with so you can get an idea. So then some of the things, got another text box over here. So some of the things that I learned through my lawyer work. So I learned invoicing. So, I got a pretty good understanding of how invoicing works for lawyers, but also just in general, got a bit of experience working with doing invoicing in a legal team. So, you could think about doing things like skills for lawyers. So particularly given that I had worked as a lawyer, you could use your skills, perhaps doing invoicing for lawyers. I'm just getting that down as an idea to start with. Got another box over here. Then again, as an investor, I got, this made me think of it, doing zero work. So things like reconciliation. And again, if you can use zero to do invoicing as well. So if you've had experience doing that, so that's sort of like account reconciliation. So you can see things like, it's a skill that I had that I could put. Again, I'll put a little box circle around that, put that over there. Other things, so you could think a little bit outside of the square. So coming back over to the lawyer thing. So one thing I might think of is okay, good at writing. Maybe writing, spelling, proofreading. Okay, so I'm going to move this. Another box here. I'll move this over a little bit. So that's one of the skills that I sort of honed when I was working as a lawyer, but I'm going to circle that there as well. A messy thing. And then, whoops, just tidy that up a bit. Make this text box big. That way. Going back to my text. Okay, so I've got another one here which just made me think. So blogging. Okay, so you can think about, so I did a blog for a while, so I'm going to circle this over here and pop this one over here. So, so I did a blog. So things I learned when I was doing a blog. So you might do, okay, so blog setup. I'm sort of thinking of this. So you just, basically the idea of this exercise is just to get out all these things on paper. Now you might decide down the track that that's actually not something that you want to do. About that one down there. You might decide that's not actually something that you want to do. You might decide over time you'll start to go through this list and you'll think, okay, well, okay, sure. So I did blogging and I did blog setup, but I didn't really like that. But what I did like was actually writing blogs. So I'm going to put that over here. So I enjoyed writing blogs. And then, you might go, okay, so then I'm quite good at writing, spelling, and proofreading. Okay, that's good. Whoops. I'm quite good at writing, spelling, and proofreading. And I'm just messing up my whiteboard here. So let me put this back over here. So, so writing blog posts. Okay, so move that over there, get my little pen and draw that around. So what we're sort of seeing here is all these different skills that are coming into play here. So you can start to think, okay, well, I've got all of these things. Okay, so you could say, well, I didn't really like invoicing. Not really a big fan of the zero reconciliation. I can do those things for myself. So I might be able to do them, but I don't necessarily want to do those as a business idea. So I'm seeing some things coming out here. So I've been a lawyer. I've been an investor. I've learned some skills doing those things. I've been a blogger. So then when you're thinking about, the kinds of things that you might want to do for your freelance business, you can start to see them all coming out on your big piece of paper. So over time, if you take a bit of time to do this, you'll get to put a whole heap of things down on your piece of paper. And then you might like to take a different color and you might like to do some highlighting. You might just go, okay, well, this one's a good one for me. I like this one. I'm going to put a star by that one. I really enjoyed writing blog posts, so I can see myself making a job out of that. I'm going to put a star by that one.
you might say, okay, well, I didn't really like the blog setup so much. So maybe I want to focus my business on writing blog posts for people and possibly also maybe helping them with proofreading their blog posts, or maybe, helping them to set up their blog pages by making sure that their, contact page, etc., looks really good, or that their about us page looks really good. So you can sort of see how this brainstorm exercise works. So thought that might be helpful if you needed a little bit of inspiration.
Okay, so coming back to you now, we want to look at the things that you will do in your freelance business. So I've put some questions up here to help prompt you, to give you some ideas, to help get the creative juices flowing and get things out onto your paper so that you can just get everything out for now. It's not going to be perfect, but let's just get all of those great ideas, all of your great experiences out on paper, because I think you'll realize how amazing that you are and how many different skills that you have once you start to do this exercise. Now, as I said, some of you might have, this might be quick for some of you. For others of you, it might take a lot longer. Some of you might have a fairly clear idea in your head already of the kind of freelance business that you want to run, but some of you might be starting from a blank page. You might want to get away from the industry that you've been in, but still be able to make the most of the skills. And I'm going to work through with both sort of categories of people so that you can have an idea about how you can take what you've got and turn it into a freelance business, even if it isn't going to be something that's exactly the same or even in the same industry as what you're doing right now. So the questions I put down there: what jobs have you done? That's going to help to prompt you get out specific jobs, but also think about some of the skills that you have that you've learned in those jobs, or that you've learned through other things that you've done through your business, or through other trainings you might have done. Think about the qualifications you have and things that you have learned through doing those qualifications. You've probably got some great knowledge you might not have even implemented or even used in the jobs that you've had. So let's get all of that out onto the paper as well. Sometimes you will have done some trainings, maybe within your work or outside of your work, that give you some great skills that you can draw upon in your freelance business. And then I also want you to think about things like what you do well, the kinds of things that people say to you, wow, you're really good at that. Those are really good things, because they're going to help provide useful experiences, useful tools that you can use to help your clients. And then think about the things that you actually enjoy doing, because this is your business. There might be things in your job that you really don't enjoy doing. There might be things that you really do enjoy doing. And what we want to try and do here is to try and capture those things you do enjoy and make the most of those things, because it's going to be much easier for you in the long run if you're able to do work that you enjoy doing. That's not to say that every job you're going to do is going to be something you enjoy doing. Often in the early days, you'll find that you might do some things that in the long run you might not do, just so that you can get that income coming in. But let's try and focus if we can on some of the things that you enjoy doing. At least include those in the list of things that you're going to include in your freelance business. The next thing I've got there is what skills are in demand. So, have a think about the kinds of things that people need in your industry or in the industry that you're wanting to work in. What kind of skills are people crying out for? What jobs have you seen advertised? Where have you seen people saying, oh my gosh, I really need someone to do this? Think about the kinds of skills that are in demand, because ultimately, if those skills are in demand, that's going to help you to get paid. And then think about if there's anything that you need. So it's good to have a bit of a think about, if you're going to do your business, is there anything you need to be able to make that business happen? Do you need to buy a new computer? Do you need to do some training? What other things do you need? Just put that as an aside, because I don't think that should stop you, but it's something to factor in this process of figuring out what kind of business you're going to do. And it might be that there's some things that you might need that you maybe can't get right now. And I don't want you to write those things off just because you can't necessarily do it straight away. I think let's put that to the side, put that on your piece of paper so it's there. And then, as I've mentioned a few times, think about what extra skills or experiences that you have. So you might have learned things through through some volunteer work, or through courses that you've done outside of work. Think about whether there's any skills or experiences outside of your traditional work that you can draw upon to incorporate into your freelance business. You might be somebody who takes really amazing photographs, and you're thinking about doing a social media business. So can you incorporate those skills that you have from your personal, experiences of being able to take really great photographs and use that in your freelance business. And what I also want you to really remember when you're working through all of these exercises, and I will say this again and again, is that you are the secret sauce in your business. So you are the only person like you who has your unique set of experiences and skills and knowledge and training. So every single person is going to be different. So I want you to make sure that you get all your ideas out onto paper, because there's not one person in this world who's going to be able to offer a freelance offering just like what you're going to be able to do. So I quite like quotes. You'll see this throughout my social media, throughout some of these slides that I like to drop quotes in. And I think that this is quite a good one I came across. And it's about realizing that you are special. What you know, the experiences that you have, everything that pulls together to create this amazing package that is you, is what makes your freelance business special and different. And I think that sometimes we can get discouraged because we see that there's lots of other people doing the kinds of things that we do, but there's no one like you. So you've not only got all these skills and experiences, but you're you. So there'll be people who relate to you and the way that you talk and the way that you behave, and just you as a total package. So I think it's really important just to sort of think about all of those things together and how that's going to make you different and how it's going to make you stand out in your freelance business and your freelance offering. Okay, so now it's time for you to do that brainstorm exercise. So get out your big piece of paper and let's get all of those ideas down and out. And I think it's a really good idea for you to spend a bit of time doing this. Make the time to think about it. You might like to do it for a while and then go away and then come back to it, but get all your ideas out onto paper, and then we're going to work through how to use those ideas to create your freelance business. Okay, so now you've got everything out onto paper. So let's take some time to have a look at that and see what you've got on there and just soak that all in and look at all the amazing skills that you have. And then I want you to get out another color pen or a highlighter maybe, and circle the things that interest you the most, the things that you think will form the basis for your freelance business, the things that really stand out to you. And I think also take the time to circle the things maybe in a different color that you think your clients need the most. So get those things. You might want to circle 4 or 5 things of each one. There might be only a few that stand out, but let's just circle those things for now and highlight those things that you think are going to make up your key offerings. You've probably got a fairly good idea of the things that you want to do. There might be some other things that you think you need to do, you should do. So let's maybe put a little star or a little mark beside those things too, because sometimes some of those things that your clients need might be things that might not be ideal necessarily, or might not be things that you want to do in the long term. But there's always the option, if you have some of those things you need to do in the short term, that maybe later on down the track that you might outsource or get, bring in an assistant or someone to help you with some of those things. So if those are things you think your clients are going to need, let's just keep them on the page for now and not write those off. And then having a look at it now that you've got everything out onto the paper, is there anything that you think is missing? Is there anything that you've forgotten about? If there is, let's write those things down on the piece of paper now as well. Okay, so what you're going to realize as we work through these activities and we work through these modules is that what's really important is to take action. So it's all very well to sit and listen to these slides, but what you need to do is you need to take action. You need to do the activities. And the reason for that is that it's just really going to help you to progress your business forward. Action is really, I think, the most important thing in business. And a lot of the time we can stall for whatever reason, but let's just get this activity done. It's a really good idea with these sessions if you can sit down and make the time with the slides to do any activities that are in there, rather than thinking, well, I'll come back to that later on, otherwise you might just not end up coming back and doing it. So let's get the brain dump brainstorm activity completed now. And then, as I mentioned, let's identify those key things that you think are ideal to form part of your freelance business offering. So once you've done those exercises, let's put our piece of paper aside. We're definitely going to come back to that. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some time to think about your ideal client. And then we're going to come back and we're going to pull all of our ideas together to create a really amazing freelance business idea.